What if I told you that every 7 minutes in London, someone's entire digital life vanishes in seconds? Oxford Circus, 2:15 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. Sarah Martinez, a 28-year-old marketing executive, steps off the bus while checking her work emails. She's navigating through the crowd when suddenly her iPhone 14 isn't in her hand anymore. In that split second, she's lost more than just a device worth 800 pounds. She's lost access to her bank accounts, 10,000 family photos, work contacts, and her entire digital identity. Have you ever felt that moment of panic when you reach for your phone and it's not there? That sinking feeling when you realize your entire life is stored on a device that fits in your pocket. Because what happened to Sarah wasn't random bad luck. She became a victim of London's most sophisticated criminal enterprise, an organized network that turned phone theft into a £50 million international industry, where your iPhone stolen on Oxford Street could end up in Algeria within 48 hours. By 2024, London had become the phone theft capital of Europe. 80,000 phones stolen in just 1 year. That's one every 7 minutes, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Tourist hotspots like Westminster and Camden became hunting grounds where masked riders on high-speed mopeds could snatch your device and disappear into traffic before you could even shout for help. But this wasn't petty street crime. Behind every theft was an organization led by 31-year-old Zachary Sajki, who ran his criminal network like a Fortune 500 company. Warehouses in Cricklewood processed thousands of stolen phones. International shipping networks funneled devices to North Africa. Professional logistics that would impress Amazon, except they were built on destroying people's lives. How would you survive if criminals suddenly had access to your bank accounts, photos, and entire digital identity? How would you cope if years of memories, business contacts, and personal connections vanished while you watched, helpless? The answer for thousands of Londoners was devastating. They couldn't. Families lost irreplaceable photos of children growing up. Businesses collapsed when professional contacts disappeared. Elderly people lost their only connection to distant grandchildren. If you're ready to understand how organized criminals turned everyday technology dependence into a weapon against ordinary people, and how undercover police fought back to destroy a £50 million criminal empire, subscribe to Dark Truth Files. Because what started as individual thefts would escalate into an international manhunt that revealed how modern crime exploits the technology we can't live without. To understand the true horror of London's phone theft epidemic, you need to understand what it means to lose your phone in 2024, when your entire life exists inside a device you carry everywhere. Dr. James Chen, a 45-year-old NHS consultant, was grabbing coffee near Westminster Bridge when two teenagers on an e-bike snatched his phone from his hand. Within seconds, he lost not just a device, but access to critical patient information, medical research he'd been working on for months, and contact details for hundreds of colleagues across London's hospital network. But the personal loss was even more devastating. 10 years of photos documenting his daughter's childhood, from her first steps to her graduation, gone forever. Video messages from his elderly parents in Hong Kong recorded weeks before they passed away, irreplaceable family memories that existed nowhere else. Maria Santos, a 34-year-old Spanish tourist, had been documenting her first visit to London with hundreds of photos and videos. The phone stolen outside the Tower of London contained not just her vacation memories, but her only means of communication with family back home, her banking apps, and her return flight information. Stranded in a foreign country, she couldn't even call for help. The theft techniques were ruthlessly efficient. Moped riders approaching from behind at 40 miles per hour, snatching phones from unsuspecting pedestrians before vanishing into London traffic. E-bike thieves weaving through crowded areas where pursuit was impossible.
swift grab-and-run operations in busy cafes where victims were focused on their screens. But it was the targeting strategy that made these thefts particularly cruel. Tourist areas where visitors were distracted and unfamiliar with their surroundings. Bus stops where commuters focused on devices while waiting for transport. Cafe terraces where people placed phones on tables, creating easy opportunities for swift snatches. iPhone users faced particular targeting. 80% of all phone thefts focused on Apple devices because of their high resale value in international markets. The same premium features that made iPhones desirable to legitimate users made them irresistible to criminal networks. The immediate aftermath was always the same: panic, disbelief, and the growing realization of how dependent they'd become on a device that had vanished in seconds. Trying to cancel bank cards without access to account information. Reporting theft to police who explained the slim chances of recovery. Attempting to trace phones through Find My iPhone while criminals rapidly disabled tracking features. For elderly victims like 72-year-old Margaret Thompson, the impact was particularly devastating. Her stolen phone contained the only photos she had of her late husband, video calls with grandchildren living abroad, and medical apps that helped manage her diabetes. The theft didn't just steal her device, it severed her connections to everything that made her life meaningful. The community impact spread far beyond individual victims. Londoners began changing their behavior, holding phones differently, avoiding certain areas after dark, looking nervously over their shoulders while using devices publicly. Tourists received warnings about phone theft before visiting London, affecting the city's reputation and tourism industry. Business districts saw professionals afraid to check emails on the street. University students avoided using phones on campus. Even children learned to hide devices and remain constantly vigilant. A generation growing up in fear of criminal predators who viewed their technology as commodity.
Behind every snatched iPhone and panicked victim was a criminal organization that operated with the efficiency of a multinational corporation, except their business model was built on destroying people's digital lives. Zachary Sajaki, 31 years old, understood something that petty thieves never grasp. Stolen phones aren't just devices to be quickly resold on street corners. They're valuable commodities requiring sophisticated supply chain management, international distribution networks, and professional logistics coordination. From his base in North London, Sajaki built what prosecutors would later describe as a criminal enterprise rivaling legitimate electronics companies in its organizational sophistication. He recruited street-level thieves, coordinated warehouse operations, and managed international shipping networks that funneled stolen British phones to markets across North Africa and Europe. His lieutenant, Ahmed Abdul Hakim Banafi, handled day-to-day operations, while Sajaki provided strategic oversight. Together, they created a business model that transformed London's streets into procurement zones for an international criminal industry worth £50 million annually. The street-level network included associates like Nazi Sharatia, Riyad Mamouni, Oliver Brady, and Amari Scott, each playing specialized roles in theft operations and device processing. But it was Sonny Stringer who epitomized the devastating efficiency of their recruitment, a prolific thief who stole 24 phones in a single night, treating other people's digital lives as nothing more than inventory for criminal profit. Cricklewood became their criminal headquarters with warehouses disguised as legitimate logistics operations. Inside these facilities, thousands of stolen phones were stacked floor to ceiling like products in an Amazon fulfillment center. Professional equipment wrapped devices in foil to prevent tracking, mislabeled cargo to disguise stolen goods as legitimate electronics, and prepared shipments for international export. The international pipeline was sophisticated beyond anything traditional policing had encountered. Primary destination? Algeria, where stolen UK phones commanded premium prices due to high import taxes on legitimate devices. European distribution networks spanning France, Spain, and Eastern Europe
provided alternative markets when North African routes became compromised. The criminal innovation was remarkable and terrifying. Understanding that iPhones held the highest resale value internationally, they focused 80% of theft operations on Apple devices. They developed techniques for bypassing security features, disabling tracking systems, and preparing devices for overseas resale while maintaining their functionality for new users. The foil wrapping operation demonstrated professional-level criminal tradecraft. Each phone was individually wrapped to prevent GPS tracking during transport, then packed into shipping containers alongside legitimate electronics. Cargo was mislabeled as computer parts, phone accessories, or other electronics to pass customs inspection. At Heathrow Airport, the scale of their operation became visible when customs officers discovered 1,000 foil-wrapped stolen phones in a single shipping container bound for Algeria. The discovery revealed systematic export operations that treated London's phone theft like any other international trade commodity. Do you see how they transformed street crime into international business? How your stolen iPhone wasn't just sold locally, but became part of global criminal supply chains that stretched from London streets to North African markets? The economic impact was staggering. Individual phones worth £500 to £1,000 in London streets commanded £1,500 to £2,000 in Algeria due to import taxes and limited legitimate supply. This price differential made international criminal logistics profitable enough to justify sophisticated operations employing hundreds of criminals across multiple countries. Criminal profits funded expansion and recruitment of new thieves. Successful operations attracted copycat networks. London's reputation as phone theft capital drew international criminals seeking quick profits from tourist-heavy areas where victims were predictable and escape routes were numerous. But their success contained the seeds of their destruction. The more sophisticated their operations became, the more evidence they created for law enforcement agencies that were quietly adapting their own methods to counter criminal innovation.
While Londoners lived in fear and criminals counted their profits, an unprecedented law enforcement operation was quietly taking shape, one that would match criminal sophistication with police innovation and determination. The challenge facing London's Metropolitan Police was unlike anything they'd encountered. Traditional policing methods, uniformed patrols, reactive investigation, local arrests were useless against criminal networks that operated like international corporations with professional logistics, technological adaptation, and global distribution channels. Detective Inspector Sarah Collins, leading the specialized phone crime unit, understood that conventional approaches had failed because they treated symptoms rather than addressing the organized criminal disease that was metastasizing across London. "We weren't just fighting individual thieves," she later explained. "We were fighting a criminal corporation with international reach and professional management." The undercover deployment began in early 2024 with plainclothes officers positioned throughout London's theft hotspots. Westminster, where tourists provided predictable targets. Camden's busy markets, where crowds enabled swift escapes. Hackney's transport hubs, where commuters focused on devices while traveling. And Lambeth's entertainment districts, where evening activities created distraction opportunities. These weren't typical undercover operations where officers infiltrated criminal organizations. Instead, they posed as ordinary Londoners, tourists checking maps on phones, commuters reading emails on buses, shoppers browsing social media and cafes, while documenting criminal methods and building comprehensive intelligence about theft networks. The psychological pressure was intense. Officers watched thefts occur while gathering evidence, knowing that immediate intervention would compromise months of investigation, but seeing victims suffer devastating losses. They had to balance protecting immediate victims against building cases that could dismantle entire criminal networks. Technology became their most powerful weapon.
Working with Apple and Google, police gained access to enhanced Find My iPhone data that tracked stolen devices in real time. IMEI numbers, unique identifiers embedded in every phone, enabled tracking specific devices through criminal processing networks to international export operations. The breakthrough came through cargo inspection coordination with Heathrow customs officials. Routine inspection of electronics shipments revealed suspicious patterns. Containers supposedly filled with legitimate phone accessories actually contained thousands of devices wrapped in foil and labeled incorrectly. Following the digital trail led investigators to the Cricklewood warehouses, where surveillance revealed the full scope of criminal operations. Thousands of stolen phones stacked in professional storage systems, processing equipment for preparing devices for export, and shipping infrastructure that would impress legitimate electronics companies. But the most crucial intelligence came from understanding criminal psychology and operational patterns. Criminals operated on predictable schedules, used consistent routes between theft locations and processing centers, and maintained digital communications that could be intercepted and analyzed for criminal intelligence. The investigation revealed criminal hierarchy through months of patient surveillance. Street-level thieves reported to area coordinators who managed specific theft zones. Processing operations were handled by specialists who prepared devices for export. International shipping was coordinated by professionals who understood customs procedures and legitimate cargo documentation. Building prosecutable cases required connecting street thefts to international export operations through comprehensive evidence chains that courts could follow and juries could understand. Each stolen phone had to be traced from victim to thief to processing center to shipping container to international destination. The moment of truth came in coordinated arrests across London, designed to prevent criminals from warning each other about law enforcement actions. Simultaneous operations targeted street thieves, warehouse managers, shipping coordinators, and criminal leadership, dismantling the entire network before it could adapt to law enforcement pressure. How do you balance protecting immediate victims against building cases to prevent thousands of future victims? How do you maintain undercover operations when criminals are actively destroying people's lives around you? These questions haunted the officers involved, but their persistence would ultimately protect countless Londoners from criminal exploitation, while demonstrating that sophisticated criminal networks aren't invulnerable to equally sophisticated law enforcement responses. The arrests were just the beginning. Evidence seizure revealed the full international scope of operations that treated London phone theft as raw material for global criminal commerce.
When the coordinated arrests began in late 2024, London witnessed the dismantling of criminal networks that had terrorized residents and visitors for years. But the legal consequences would reveal both the power and limitations of criminal justice in the digital age. Zachary Saji, the 31-year-old criminal mastermind who built phone theft into a £50 million international industry, received an 8-year sentence that reflected judicial recognition of his organizational leadership and the devastating impact of his operations on thousands of victims. During sentencing, Judge Margaret Thornton described Saji's network as a criminal enterprise that systematically destroyed the digital lives of innocent people while treating their most personal possessions as mere commodities for international trade. The 8-year sentence, while substantial, seemed insufficient compared to the collective suffering of victims who lost irreplaceable memories, financial security, and digital connectivity. Victim impact statements revealed the human cost that prison sentences couldn't address. Dr. James Chen described the ongoing psychological impact of losing decade-old photos of his daughter's childhood, The courts can imprison the criminals, but they can't restore my memories or undo the trauma of having my family's digital history stolen and sold like merchandise. Maria Santos, the Spanish tourist whose London vacation was destroyed by phone theft, spoke about the broader impact on her trust in travel and technology. I still check my pockets obsessively when using my phone in public. These criminals didn't just steal devices, they stole people's confidence in living normal digital lives. International cooperation provided some measure of justice for the global scope of criminal operations. Working with Algerian authorities, British investigators traced some stolen devices to North African markets and identified international criminal contacts who facilitated the export operations. However, the international dimension also revealed justice limitations. Many stolen phones were never recovered, despite successful prosecutions. International criminal contacts remained beyond British jurisdiction. Victims whose devices ended up overseas faced additional challenges in any recovery attempts. The ripple effects of successful prosecutions extended far beyond individual criminal accountability. London's phone theft statistics began declining as news of the arrests spread through criminal networks. The demonstration that sophisticated operations could be dismantled deterred some criminal recruitment and forced remaining networks to adopt less efficient, more cautious methods. Technology companies responded to the criminal prosecutions by accelerating security improvements that had been under development. Google's introduction of theft detection lock in 2024 represented direct response to London criminal intelligence, while Apple enhanced Find My iPhone capabilities based on law enforcement recommendations from the investigation. Community response was overwhelmingly positive, with Londoners reporting increased confidence in using devices publicly following news of criminal network dismantling. Tourism organizations noted improved visitor confidence, while business districts saw professionals more comfortable checking emails and making calls on the street. But law enforcement officials remained realistic about the ongoing challenge. Detective Inspector Collins acknowledged that dismantling one criminal network doesn't eliminate the economic incentives that create phone theft markets. New networks will emerge unless we continue adapting our methods and working with technology companies to reduce criminal profitability. The prison sentences, while providing accountability and community protection, raised questions about resource allocation and crime prevention effectiveness. Housing multiple criminals for years costs taxpayers hundreds of thousands of pounds, while early intervention and prevention programs might achieve better public safety outcomes at lower social cost. Do these sentences adequately reflect the collective damage to thousands of victims? Whether prison terms deter other potential criminals from joining similar networks? How communities can maintain the momentum of successful law enforcement while addressing the systematic factors that make criminal careers attractive. The legal victories represented progress, but the broader challenge of protecting digital society from criminal exploitation remained an ongoing responsibility for law enforcement, technology companies, and communities working together. The criminal prosecutions marked not just the end of one network, but the beginning of a technological arms race that would reshape how society protects digital life from criminal exploitation. Google's 2024 introduction of theft detection lock represented a direct response to London's phone theft crisis. Using artificial intelligence and motion sensors, the system could detect when phones were snatched from users' hands and automatically lock devices to prevent criminal access to personal data and financial apps. The technology was revolutionary. Machine learning algorithms analyzed movement patterns to distinguish between normal usage and theft scenarios. If someone grabbed a phone and ran, the device would lock within seconds, rendering it useless for accessing bank accounts, personal photos, or sensitive information that criminals had previously exploited. Apple simultaneously enhanced Find My iPhone capabilities, enabling more precise location tracking and remote data wiping that worked even when criminals attempted to disable internet connections. The improvements were specifically designed to counter criminal techniques documented during the London investigation. But the technology war extended far beyond individual device protection. Industry collaboration created shared databases of stolen device identifiers that prevented resale through legitimate channels. When phones were reported stolen, their unique IMEI numbers were flagged across international markets, making them worthless to criminal networks that depended on resale value. The criminal response was predictably adaptive. Organized networks invested in technology to bypass manufacturer protections, recruited technical specialists to defeat security measures, and developed new theft techniques designed to circumvent detection algorithms. However, the economic equation had fundamentally changed. Security improvements made stolen phones less valuable to criminals while increasing the technical expertise required to profit from theft. Many street-level thieves found their criminal careers suddenly unprofitable as enhanced security reduced resale values. Community protection strategies evolved alongside technology improvements. Public awareness campaigns educated Londoners about recognizing theft situations and using security features effectively. Business partnerships created safer environments for device usage, with restaurants and transport systems implementing policies that reduced theft opportunities. The global impact extended far beyond London. Other cities adopted prevention techniques developed during the British investigation. Criminal networks worldwide faced enhanced security measures that reduced profitability and increased risks associated with phone theft operations. Economic benefits multiplied across multiple sectors. Reduced phone theft saved Londoners millions in replacement costs and insurance claims. Tourism industry benefits included improved visitor confidence and international reputation. Business productivity increased as professionals felt safer using devices for work communications in public spaces. Law enforcement technology continued evolving based on lessons learned from the investigation. Enhanced tracking capabilities enabled faster criminal identification. Real-time data sharing between police forces and technology companies improved response times and evidence gathering. International cooperation platforms facilitated cross-border investigations of global criminal networks. Privacy considerations required careful balancing of security improvements with user rights and convenience. Anti-theft measures needed to protect against criminal exploitation without creating surveillance systems that threatened legitimate privacy. The ongoing challenge involved making devices secure against criminals while keeping them usable for legitimate owners. Future innovations promised even more comprehensive protection. Biometric security could make stolen devices completely worthless to criminals by requiring fingerprint, facial recognition, or other unique identifiers that criminals couldn't replicate. Blockchain technology might create tamper-proof device identification that eliminated international resale markets entirely. The potential exists for making phone theft economically irrational through technology that renders stolen devices worthless. If criminals can't access personal data, can't bypass security features, and can't resell devices internationally, the economic incentives that drive organized theft networks disappear entirely. Community resilience improved as Londoners' confidence returned following successful prosecutions and security enhancements. Public spaces became safer for device usage as both criminal deterrence and technology protection reduced theft risks. Normal digital life resumed as security improvements enabled people to enjoy technology benefits without constant fear of criminal exploitation. However, challenges remain.
Criminal networks continue adapting to security improvements, developing new techniques for exploiting technological vulnerabilities. The continuous evolution of both legitimate technology and criminal methods requires ongoing vigilance and adaptation from all stakeholders involved in digital security. The success of London's response to organized phone theft demonstrates that criminal exploitation of technology isn't inevitable. When law enforcement, technology companies, and communities work together effectively, even sophisticated criminal networks can be dismantled and prevented from returning. But the protection of digital society requires continuous effort, ongoing innovation, and sustained cooperation between all parties committed to ensuring that technology serves human flourishing rather than criminal exploitation.
London's phone theft crisis and the successful response to organized criminal networks provide crucial lessons about protecting digital society from criminal exploitation while preserving the technological benefits that enhance modern life. The vulnerability principle became clear. Technological advancement inevitably creates new opportunities for criminal exploitation that require conscious security awareness and proactive protection measures. Device dependence means that personal security must evolve alongside technological capabilities. Individual protection strategies emerged from understanding criminal methods and motivations, recognizing high-risk situations where theft is more likely, using security settings and apps that provide better protection against criminal access, behavioral changes that reduce vulnerability without limiting the legitimate benefits of mobile technology. Community resilience proved more effective than individual precautions alone. Collective awareness and vigilance protect everyone more effectively than isolated security measures. Community cooperation enabled successful law enforcement operations that dismantled organized criminal networks threatening all residents and visitors. The innovation response demonstrated how criminal success drives positive technological development. Security improvements often result from criminal exploitation rather than proactive development, creating ongoing technological arms races between crime prevention and criminal adaptation. Law enforcement evolution showed why sophisticated criminal networks require equally sophisticated responses. Traditional policing methods proved inadequate against organized technology crime that operates like international business enterprises with professional management and global reach. Global implications revealed how local crime problems increasingly require international solutions. Criminal networks' global reach demands international law enforcement cooperation, while successful prevention techniques developed in one location can benefit communities worldwide. Economic understanding highlighted how crime prevention creates value beyond immediate victim protection. Making crime unprofitable through security works better than punishment alone, while successful prevention enables technological and social progress that benefits entire societies. Future preparedness requires understanding current criminal methods to anticipate future criminal innovation. Society must build security awareness into technological advancement while maintaining the benefits that make technology valuable for legitimate users. The choice between accepting vulnerability and taking active steps to protect ourselves, our technology, and our communities remains with each individual and society as a whole. Criminal networks will continue adapting and evolving, but so do the communities, technologies, and law enforcement agencies that work together to counter criminal exploitation. If this exploration of London's phone theft crisis has shown you how organized criminals exploit everyday technology, how communities and law enforcement can work together to counter sophisticated criminal networks, and how individual awareness combines with technological innovation to create effective protection, subscribe to Dark Truth Files for more stories revealing the complex relationships between crime, technology, and community resilience.
London's experience demonstrates that criminal innovation drives security innovation, law enforcement adaptation, and community awareness that ultimately makes everyone safer. The ongoing protection of digital society requires continuous vigilance, but the successful response to organized phone theft proves that even sophisticated criminal networks can be defeated through cooperation, innovation, and determination to protect the technological progress that benefits everyone.